Hello and welcome to a very different kind of video than I normally do. This is less of some kind of video essay and more of just me talking about moments in Kojima's games that I personally either dislike or don't look forward to when I'm replaying his games. Obviously, this is completely just my subjective opinion. A lot of these things, like, I even understand conceptually, why they're in the game, but personally, actually being the one who has to play the games, I don't always like everything that's in there, and there are certainly some moments that stick out. So these are going to be those, because you know what? I always am very positive about Kojima, but somebody said in the comments that if Kojima had directed a version of Two Girls, One Cup, that I would call it a masterpiece, and they're probably right about that. So I made me think about it, and I was like, I don't think I've ever even once said anything even remotely negative about any Kojima game. So I thought, why not? Because there's no sense in acting like there aren't moments even in great games, especially if we're talking about something that's 15, 20, 25 years or more like old. Yeah, there are going to be some things that are dated, and especially in Kojima's games, just because his games tend to be very much, as I've said in other videos, of the moment, with the technology and with the references to other games that are out at that time, or things that are going on in the news, or things like that the further you get away from the era that the game came out in, then the more difficult it is for it to make as much sense. So anyway, let's start at the top. Metal Gear 87, okay? Metal Gear 87. All right, so backtracking and getting turned around, generally, there's a lot of backtracking in this game, which was something that you saw a lot more at that time, which I get. But when you play it now, this is true of Metal Gear 2, and Metal Gear Solid. There is just quite a lot of backtracking where you reuse the same environment for something different, or you have to double back and go somewhere you've already been, that kind of thing. Especially Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, these games are essentially like maze-type games. Like, they're intentionally designed to be really easy to get lost in and stuff. The more time that passes, the more of a pain that is. Just all of the, insta-ass clap traps and sadistic moments where you learn what you need only by first encountering the exact situation when you need it and you don't have it, or having to die to learn about it, like the decoy Modnar who just kills you, or when you get ambushed by Shotmaker when you're defenseless. Which, again, it's a great scene. It reminds me of the beginning of Phantom Pain. They take away all your weapons and items and then you get ambushed. I mean, I get that on paper, but you just run into the hind before you have a weapon to defeat it, stuff like that. Also on my list would be just the dogs and the like prison maze section. That makes me crazy. Then changing important radio frequencies mid-game is just unnecessarily a pain in the butt. They're also like important yet hard to find items that you can just get stuck like looking for and get lost. Like trying to remember the rooms you've already been to, and you can't progress in the game without items like the compass to cross the desert, or the parachute, or the flashlight. So, yeah. Also having to unlock Jennifer's approval to access the rocket launcher, having to literally farm for ammo and rations like one at a time. Again, this makes sense because the technological limitations of the time, but you really do have to just it's just really tedious. The entire underground tunnel section is a pain because it has all these traps. Big Boss misdirecting you near the end, especially for first-time players, that's just... And then, of course, there's the Coward Duck boss fight with the POWs. And then little things like having to equip the gas mask before you enter a room to avoid getting damaged. That's... For hours into the game, I would still make that mistake because also you don't always know when the room is going to have gas. So unless you've already played the game and you know it really well backwards and forwards, you're going to get caught by that. And once you chew through your rations, you have to go find them and then one at a time restock them. So it's just a whole thing. There's also, all of Kojima's games, right, have extremely troll moments that they are hilarious. I'm glad that they're there, but they're also can be annoying and a pain in the ass. And I've already talked about some of them, but one of my favorites is Dr. Modnar forgetting the last step in How to Destroy Metal Gear TX55. Alright, so the next game, which would be Snatcher, right? I'm going off the Sega CD version. The Insectors in this game are a pain in the butt, especially the last section of Insectors. I get stuck there at least for a little bit every time I play this game. There are also some sections in this game where you have to exhaust every possible option for the right answer to appear. So there is technically in those moments like no right answer. And this becomes more of a pain when you're replaying the game because you'll know the right answer, but you won't remember that you have to pick wrong answers to get it to show up. That's true in particular of this one section, which is in a hospital, where there are these switches, and you have to exhaust like a lot of options before it'll give you the idea, basically, to pull them both at the same time. There's also a section where you have to look for this girl, Katrina, who you're worried about or whatever, that maybe the Snatchers got her. And you have to waste time on a wild goose chase, which I get there's narrative reasons for that and thematic reasons for that. But as a player, especially when you're replaying it, it's just a little irritating because, you know, again, you have to exhaust every wrong option for the story to advance. And yeah, at the time that was fine, but nowadays it's just a little annoying. SD Snatcher, I mean, because of the time that it came out and stuff, it's just very slow paced. And if you're going to play this game, you're going to need to make heavy use of your like speed up feature on your emulator. Because yeah, it was only ever released for the MSX2. So, okay, on to the next one, which was another huge MSX2 game. The last great MSX2 game, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. So, huge amount of backtracking in this game. Cool then, just dated now. There are aspects of the backtracking that do remind me of how they would sort of, you know, have you replay missions in Phantom Pain. It works a lot better there, right? Because the enemy like learns from your behavior, and there are little changes and stuff. They'll put mines down and stuff in the path that you used before. So, you know, that's different. But the backtracking in this game can, be a little bit of a pain. There's some infamous sequences in the game, like following this officer in the jungle maze, which is just a pain in the butt, as well as figuring out the secret walkway, like the layout of it beneath the swamp through just trial and error. Having to use the real-life Vietnam tap code communication system was a bit much. I understand that they got really into making the game, and it became their life, like, and their hobby became their job, and all this, and it's a beautiful thing to behold, really. But again, as the one on the ground actually playing the game, a lot of this stuff, like, you just have to look up a walkthrough, and it's hard to imagine what in the world you would have done back in the day when there was no internet that you could just look this stuff up on yet. You know, there are also some moments in the game where if you're not fully stocked with ammo, you'll just have to like stop in the middle of a boss fight and go like resupply. For instance, you really don't want to face the running man without enough landmines, because then you'll have to use like other types of explosives. There's this one sequence where you have to chase a bird, and you have to have a certain kind of ration equipped to catch it, and you have to wait like for it to settle down before you can move to get it. There's just some ambushes and like traps in this game, of course, just like the first one, like getting jumped in the elevator. And speaking of elevators, there are just a lot of different elevators and buildings which run together in Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, especially while you're backtracking. And you know, these sulfuric acid puddles will kill you in one hit, which anything like that I don't love. I also don't know how in the world I'm supposed to get the frequency. Like they give you an important codec frequency, but it's in a code that you have to decipher. And yeah, like I don't see. Yeah, I'm staring at it right now, and I don't exactly understand. You just have to look it up on a walkthrough. Not always a great sign. Having to track down so much secret gear in hard-to-reach rooms. I mean, in both of these games, this is a problem, or not so much a problem. It's just annoying. But especially in this one, And then there's this one part where they hide a really important ID card in the tall grass inside a room from a prior boss fight that you have to backtrack to, and you can easily like spend time in there looking for it and not finding it. It's like looking for a needle in a stack of needles. There, I also have on my list here the one-shot ability of the Zanzibar land hamster, who can kill you in one hit, and then having to lure them out with the cheese in your rations. There's a lot of ration-based gameplay in this one. And then, you know, avoiding Metal Gear D's feet, that's another one-hit kill. They loved one-hit kills at this time in games, I guess. Alright, next is Police Knots. So, the bomb disposal section and purse exam, as I'll call it, in this game is... Not a lot of people in the West know about it, but it is honestly one of the biggest, like, rage bait moments in a game that I've seen, other than, like, Jump King or something. It is outrageous. All right, let me add it. Here we go.
いいか、ジョナサン。爆弾の入ってるカバンを探すぞ。じゃあ、始めようぜ。
Okay. Oh. See, I knew that. I got in my own head. Okay. This motherfucker. Okay. This is fucking Squid Game. Okay. No! Damn it! God damn it! Fuck! God, fuck! And it's especially troublesome because on an emulator, the sequence doesn't really work. There's a point where the lights turn off, and while the lights are off, you cannot see. So when I was emulating this for a Let's Play earlier this year, I had to do it essentially by just looking at a reference photo and trial and error, like just like tapping the bejesus out of X while trying to line it up. And I did eventually get it. I eventually got a knack for it, but like, yeah, I had to cut like maybe 2.5 hours out of that video of just me trying and failing. And yes, it's funny because when you fail, like there's this huge explosion and they play it for comedic effect, and then the characters, you know, Kojima knew that you would die over and over again, so the characters like talk to each other about it every time. I mean, they don't say that much different every time, but it's just like they acknowledge like, yeah, we died. So what's the worst that can happen now, kind of a thing. Which is very funny, but yeah, it's like, I understand the character who set up this bomb is like very sadistic and all this stuff. I get that. I also get that Kojima is very sadistic, but this is taking things a little far. I mean, like, first you have to find which purse out of all these purses has the bomb before you can even start working on the bomb. And oh my god, like, there's a part where you have to unscrew things, but you have to it becomes Squid Game. It literally becomes Squid Game, like hot cold, because you're watching this sensor and you can only hit the button to unscrew the screw when it's blue, and it doesn't do it at a regular pulse. I figured out that it's long, short, when the red light shows up. So you have to do this enough times to memorize that. But before you can really figure out this puzzle. And that's just one part in this. That's Ed. Okay, okay. Very funny, Kojima. Very funny. There's also another one where you have to like pick up this little like magnetized thing and move it through a maze. And if you touch any of the walls or drop it, it explodes. It is outrageous. So yeah, I mean, this is in my list of like all-time least favorite things in any game, especially because at this point I've beaten Policenauts, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times, and I've had to do it obviously each time, and it's just having to exhaust all the dialogue choices before things can proceed in some sections, like when you're first starting out on the Tokugawa moon base. And yeah, I mean, if we're talking about things that are annoying, because this game is only really playable in emulation, the emulated version can just get stuck for some reason, and it's like the ROM file, you won't know it until you hit a certain scene, and then it just like will not load. So you'll have to find a different ROM. It's a huge pain. There's also this one sequence where you have to be so precise when you're investigating this object in the crime scene inside the Astronauts Memorial Museum. A bit of blood got on this artifact that's inside this glass case, and you have to click exactly right. I mean, for a point-and-click adventure game, Policenauts doesn't actually have that much stuff like this, so it should really get a pass here, but since we're talking about things that are annoying. And there's also this alleyway in old LA that it's just easy to get stuck here by overlooking something in the environment. You have to look at pretty much everything to get it to progress. Of course, there's the Japanese crest password part, which, yeah, you are going to need a walkthrough for that. And there's this freeway gunfight where, fortunately, if you use L2 and R2, you can like sort of like move the cursor around on the screen a lot more efficiently because it just like snaps in place. And there's actually a button for like auto aim that will just like lock onto the closest target that works fairly well. So as long as you use that, you should be okay. But before I realized that that was part of the game, I died in this section quite a lot because you're like swerving around the freeway and you keep running into cars and there's no way to avoid them. So you just keep taking damage and you just have to complete the section, I guess, before taking too much. So, all right, MGS1. Well, MGS1 is perfect. No notes. MGS2. Yeah, covering EE with the PSG-1 is a huge pain, especially if you're trying for minimal alerts. I don't really get why her alerts count as my alerts, but anyway. The mass-produced Ray fight is quite difficult, especially on higher difficulties. And I'm not really complaining because obviously if you pick a difficulty called extreme, you want it to be very, very difficult, right? So it's kind of stupid to then turn around and be like, oh, why is this so hard? But honestly, this is so hard. And the same goes for Vamp. Like, Vamp on Extreme is outrageously difficult. And then, you know, getting all the dog tags, I guess it's easy to miss some, and then if you do, then you just have to replay the entire chapter, you know, to get it. Kind of a pain. And in the original game, on Hard or Extreme, like, when Solidus would choke you, it was very difficult to not just get choked to death. Some of the VR missions are brutal, like the one, like a lot of Pliskins and MGS1 Snake, like especially like if you do the grenade VR. Oh my god, that's really difficult. Or they're just quite long, like the bomb disposal missions tend to be a bit long because you're looking around and, you know, it could take up to 20 minutes in some cases. All right, on to MGS3. Well, MGS3 is also perfect, no notes. Now, MGS4, the entirety of Act 3, let's face it, I believe Kojima like passed that job off rather to somebody else on the team, if I recall correctly, who did their best to design the act, but it's very tedious. It's a pain in the butt to just have to tail the guy. And the same kind of goes for tracking Naomi at the end of Act 2. It's like, because I've replayed it so many times, I can get through this no problem, but for a while, this was just rather difficult. And I mean, trying to beat this game without any kills, I got stuck at the end of Act 2 in like the zombie section and the section where you're fighting the geckos because, yeah, it's just ridiculously easy to kill them. So you have to be very, very careful. And, you know, fighting Vamp in Act 4, if you screw up with the syringe, if you know what you're doing, then it's not so hard. But it's like every now and then when I play this part, I make one mistake and then he gets out of my grasp and then, you know, you have to start over. There are just a lot of sequences in this game that are just like if you screw up, they're so long and you have to just replay them like the entire thing, and it's a little bit tedious. Like fighting Ocelot in Act 4 and Act 5. Yeah, it's just very long to replay if you die. Peace Walker. Boss fights in general are just too long and bullet spongy, especially, I mean, as for a PSP game, it makes perfect sense, but, you know, when they re-released the game for, you know, PS3 and so forth, I don't know, it feels quite bullet spongy. Having to restart entire missions due to a lack of many checkpoints is a pain in the butt. Having to replay boss fights a ton to farm for parts for Metal Gear Zeke, oh man, that takes a lot of time. And then, of course, MGS5. Well, boss fights on Extreme are quite difficult. The bosses that are marked Extreme are extremely difficult. That's not much of a criticism, is it? Alright, Death Stranding. Well, in the first game, it's a bit too easy to take damage and get frustrated, or at least it is for me. I'd say generally combat in this game is not too good. The boss fights are pretty poor in Death Stranding. It's just not well suited for action most of the time. The cliff battles are quite long and they're a pain to restart, but they did make them more fun in the director's cut. As for Death Stranding 2, I mean, from what I've seen of the game so far, I don't have any notes. So, and there's, as a special mention, the first Boktai game, which Kojima had an involvement in. It does not actually play too well. It's sort of like a Zelda-ish, like dungeon crawler, but extremely frustrating. So yeah, that does it. That's my list of gripes or things that I personally don't look forward to when I replay his games. I hope you enjoyed this rather pointless exercise. And I look forward to getting back to making video essays for you guys. All right. Until next time, boss.